Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're covering the Netflix anime series, Cannon Busters.
We follow the adventures of S.A.M, a Royal Class friendship droid, Quirky Casey, a discarded maintenance robot, and
Quirky.
Philly, an immortal fugitive. And together they all embark on an unforgettable journey in what amounts to a fantastic and dangerous world, searching for S.A.M's best friend, who is a royal heir, or so we think. That's what's going on. So we're led to believe.
Yes, because there's a lot going on in this show.
Definitely.
Now, before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and click notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and World of Paws videos.
Absolutely. Now, when we first saw this, we learned about it in this very strange so-called anime.
It was a documentary, I think.
This was a documentary.
It was supposed to be a documentary.
Okay, this so-called anime documentary where this appeared very briefly as one of the shows being covered. That's how we learned about Cannon Busters. And we said, hey, let's take a look and see if it's something we like. So we added it to the wish list. And then a while later went back and began to watch it.
Right. And here, when we saw the first episode, we kind of know what to think because it seems like the show has a lot in it.
What is stand out about this show is one, there are several things that stand out about this show. One, it was originally a comic with one issue.
I think it was three issues.
Yeah, I'm sorry, a comic with 3 issues, written by LaShawn Thomas, and it's also the writer is black, and this comic was turned into a Netflix original anime series, still based on the characters written by LaShawn Thomas, although he only wrote 1 episode of the 13 episode series.
Right.
And those are the things that stand out about it before we even get started talking about it.
Yes. And for the show itself, you kind of can't tell from the trailer what it's supposed to be. You have to watch the show and find out all the different genres. Now, Claire LaShawn Thomas is a big fan of anime and of Avatar, and especially Cowboy Bebop, because
which is evident all throughout this series.
Yes, even one of the main characters, Philly, looks like another version of Spike Spiegel. And there are even times where they reference the show, different episodes, and his music, and bring in a lot of Cowboy Bebop influence on here.
Definitely.
Even from the show's theme song, which people are huge fans of, instead of having blues or rhythm or jazz, and here it's more of an R&B feel, and it's not in Japanese for some reason, which you missed out on opportunity.
That would have been so cool. So we want to mention that after we began watching this series, maybe after the first 1 or 2 episodes, we began to see that some of the press on it was not favorable. So we wanted to give this show a watch for ourselves to see if we would, if we agree or disagree, or just how the show was in itself, because we love watching anime and we love recommendations. And even when we hear things that may not be so pleasant, we usually like to watch and draw our own conclusions and have our own opinions about it.
Right.
So this happened with this show. So it started off kind of rough, we have to say. It was a shock to the senses, and as Rascal said, it's very busy. There's lots of different arcs going on at the same time. There's a lot of violence.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cursing.
Right.
So this is not for kids. It is definitely worthy of its MA rating. And it wasn't what we were expecting based on what was shown during the anime documentary. I personally thought that this anime was about S.A.M and Casey. I thought it was about the darn robots. We didn't know that it was about Philly, because in the plug on the documentary, they didn't talk about Philly. All they showed were the robots.
Right. It may also get people interested in watching the show, seeing these cute little robots being the center. Now, we get the point of having Philly in here, and it was supposed to be having a balance of the robots were super positive, Philly is super negative. Having them work off each other was meant to be the comedy and the sort of the up and down of it.
Straight man and the Right.
Right, and we get that was the point, but there are multiple times when watching the show where Philly is just not likable, and you kind of don't want to focus on him.
In the beginning.
Yes, and that's what sort of throws you off at first, because there's such a heavy focus on him instead of the robots. You almost feel like, okay, it's called Cannon Busters. Sam's the Cannon Buster. Why aren't we focusing on the Cannon Buster?
Which you learn about within the first few episodes what the Cannon Buster is.
Mm-hmm.
I personally would have loved to have seen a series just on the two robots. They are adorable and funny, and just their escapades going around meeting people are absolutely the best part of this show in terms of the dialogue and the interactions and things. The robots are hilarious. They are brilliant. They are Sam is beautifully drawn. Casey is cute and adorable, and I could see a show just on them alone. But as you mentioned, Philly was needed to balance it out. If the show had been just about the robots, Philly wouldn't have been needed. But because it wasn't, and it was taking place, as you mentioned, in this violent atmosphere where it's definitely dog eat dog, you see the contrast between the robots, and I'm going to keep calling them robots, I know it's droids, between them and between Philly. Mm-hmm. And then you learn very early on that he's what's called an immortal, and clearly immortals are common in this universe. It's not something so odd that people are like, oh my gosh, it's, oh, you're one of them immortals, and that was
it's
what
like,
the characters kept saying to him. And what that meant is no matter what happened to him, no matter how he was killed, he would come back. If he lost skin, if he's burned up, everything regenerates, and each time he dies, the number of the death he's experienced somehow ends up etched into his skin. That's pretty creepy.
Yeah, and we don't know what that means. I personally think when he reaches 100, that's going to be when he'll be gone for good, or it's just going to keep going infinitely long until there's no more room on his body.
Immortal, so if he's immortal, then there won't be a cap on the numbers.
Right, or it's just going to go infinitely on until there's nowhere else to put the numbers. I don't know, I'm kind of guessing here because it's sort of like Infinity Train with having the numbers on the hand, and it goes down when you do good and goes up when you do bad. So it kind of reminds me of that.
There are a lot of droids in this series, and at first you don't understand they're droids. You have to keep watching and seeing things happen as it progresses. And in this universe, all the droids are female.
Yeah, we have yet to see a male droid. We've seen male robots, but male lizards, male aliens, and so forth. They got aliens and stuff in here. But for some reason, all the droids are female. We were not sure why. Maybe that's just how this universe works with them, or what. I mean, like, you can't draw one guy in here. You got all these other giant guys and aliens. Why not?
The first 3 episodes are just basically establishing Philly and whom he is. Mm-hmm. And he ends up with these two droids riding with him who he really doesn't want. And probably all the way halfway through this series, there's just an antagonistic relationship. Not on their half. No matter what he does, they're friendly and nice. Mm-hmm. But he's rude to them. He's nasty. He's cruel. He doesn't care if they get destroyed. He wants to shoot them himself. And you learn that after halfway through, you know, he's got ulterior motives from having the droids with him. Mm-hmm. And you also get to see his backstory, but not like we traditionally see one. You see flashes of what has happened to him, and that's it.
And you have to put it together.
Exactly. There's no explanation. There's no episode that's a backstory. There's none of that. You have to figure it out yourself. The droids themselves tell you their backstories, and Casey gets her own episode. Sam doesn't, but there's so much of her backstory being told as the story progresses, she really doesn't need it. Mm-hmm. And her backstory is adorable until you get to the last 3 episodes. Mm-hmm. Casey's is sad, but turns out with a happy ending because she finds people who care about her. Mm-hmm. And her dedicated episode, we thought they were going to decommission her and we were not happy because we like her. But as we did mention earlier, in the beginning, he's not a likable character. But the further in you get, the more you understand him, the better his attitude becomes. And he seems to trust the droids more. Because he can't trust anyone. Clearly in this show, you can't trust anyone. But he's beginning to understand not only can he trust them, but they're kind to him. They treat him nicely. They don't want anything from him. They're not trying to kill him. And he becomes more and more relaxed with them and actually starts treating them as friends.
Right.
And then once that happens, you begin to actually not see the character in such a negative light. He starts having a sense of humor. He just starts letting his guard down, and then you can see that the character has potential.
Right. And like we said, we understand that was playing the character to be the contrast of having the super positive robots. You need a super pessimistic human guy with it. There was one thing I kind of hoped the show would do, and the theme is that Sam sees almost anyone as a friend that helps her. She sees Philly as a friend because he helped her one time unintentionally, so she follows him everywhere. She has been made to make friends and build friendships, and then with the prince, she's been his friend since he was a child.
Right.
And the sort of this theme I thought they were going for is that she really thinks everyone's a friend, but she really doesn't know that there are people that put her and others in danger. And I kind of thought we're going to this thing like, you see a bit of the prince and how he acts in the beginning. You see how Philly acts. I was expecting some sort of thing like she starts to, learn that not everybody is a friend that she meets. But she's met all sorts of people that have been a friend. Well, if there's one that wasn't. And the prince wasn't really a friend, even though you've seen him and perceived him as being a good guy, and then Philly ends up being the friend you wouldn't expect. I kind of thought they were going there and seeing like it's not just all black and white on how a friend is or who you think would be a friend or potential friend, but unfortunately it didn't. However, that didn't deter from going and finishing the season or series.
Absolutely. So before we wrap up on our final thoughts on this, let's give a shout out to the voice actors. Ken Michael is Philly the Kid. And we also have Stephanie Shea appearing as Casey, the maintenance robot. Kamali, I'm sorry, or it might be Kamali Mentor. Is Sam. And then you've got some favorites that we know, like Zeno Robinson, Billy Bob Thompson, Michael Sinterklaas,
Trevor Duvall.
Yes. So you will recognize them when you hear them. And everyone does a great job at voicing their characters. Even the ones who appear as the villains.
And he even got John Eric Bentley as the king. Because they got kingdoms in here, so it's got the Vatican for some reason.
And we gotta mention Augie Banks.
And he's actually, if you watch Tiger and Bunny, he's Fire Emblem.
Yes.
But without his RuPaul voice.
So yes, there's a great cast in here. And we have to say that, again, it started off rocky, but for the end for me, I don't see the hate and the dislike for this series. Yes, it's different from what we consider to be standard anime because it definitely has an American twist. You got the guns and the violence,
and the knives.
That's the truth. And you have characters that aren't the standard characters in probably 90% of anime. But the hate is unfounded. If you watch the series all the way through, you can see the development, the story, the way they wanted it to be told. Again, a character that's unlikable, you begin to understand. The droids are adorable and you love them. And the ending, the way that it ends, it seems like there's more story to be told, and you really hope there is. I do hope there's a second season, because after watching to the end and seeing how things turned out, especially with Sam, I would watch a second season.
Right.
So I think personally, I don't see I don't think the hate's founded.
Right. And
I would give it a B+.
Right.
There's a couple things I think could have been done better, but that's just a matter of personal taste and from watching anime. But I do believe that with the second season, it probably would end up going up from a B+ to an A. Absolutely.
Right. And we've seen some people kind of give half and half. Some say it's terrible, and some say it's actually really good. Even just after the first rough episodes, we'll consider good. But it all depends on really the viewer.
I think one thing also that tends to happen when you have stories focused around characters that are people of color, and this has gone on for quite a while, whether it be in the comics with Batwing, or whether it's in another anime, Afro Samurai, or this one, there's always an incredible amount of violence and cursing. It's like it's par for the course. For some reason, they feel that this has to be in there in order for it to be authentic. Well, you know, you can watch TV and know for sure that every person of color isn't violent, and every person of color isn't vulgar, and every person of color doesn't curse all the time, and every word that comes out of the mouth is a curse word. That being said, for some reason, this seems to be what happens with a lot of shows that focus on a character that's a person of color. It's unfortunate. Hopefully that will change. Hopefully people will begin to depict all people in various ways, because there's not one standard type of personality or character for any group. Right. It takes all kind of people in every kind of group to make this world. So hopefully that trope will begin to dissolve, and hopefully we'll see more anime and more animated series, mangas, and comic books that center around people of color, all people of color, and they begin to be the focal point and showing them in ways that are not only heroic but positive, and as role models.
Exactly.
This definitely is not a show that is for kids. It's definitely not a show that could be viewed as role model building. Because of how it is, because of the violence and the language and so forth, and the subject matter. But that being said, again, I give it a B. And if you have not seen Cannon Busters, it's still on Netflix, and we recommend you give it a try. Watch at least 3 episodes before you make your decision. If you decide not to finish it, hey, at least you've given it a chance.
Right.
And if you have seen Cannon Busters, let us know what you think honestly in the comments below. If you have a favorite character, mine is Sam. And what do you think could have possibly made it more appealing to a larger audience? And if you are looking forward to or hoping for season 2.
Yeah. Oh, and they also have like a car. They have a giant cat that can turn into a giant robot.
Oh, yes. We forgot to mention that. It's actually pretty cool.
Too bad it doesn't do anything.
It's
till
like
the end.
a pink Cadillac Voltron.
Yeah. Too bad it doesn't do anything till the end. Sorry. But then again, it costs a lot.
And you have to feed it quarters like an old arcade machine in order for it to work.
Right. So,
don't forget to like, subscribe, and sign up for notifications for more Paws On Animation podcasts and World of Paws
videos and podcasts and shout outs, of course.
And birthday videos.
Yes. So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Ice Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.
And reporters sitting, flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. Met her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket, give it to you later on in